Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. Guys, there is so much bad news at the moment. Today, I woke up and I thought, right, I'm not going to do doom and gloom news. I am just going to do an aliens video, and I'm going to talk about negative ions that have been that have been found on the moon. Didn't happen. My friend in Ukraine, he sent me a couple of messages with a few articles that we're going to focus on today about what the Serbian president has said. So basically, the Serbian president's come out and he said, in an interview, he said we've only got a few months before war in Europe starts, and I guess you could call that the beginning of World War III. Excuse me. So basically, guys, this leads into what we've been saying for a long time, if we take it at face value, that it's, potentially correct, that we're going to have this war declared in Europe, July, August, maybe a little bit later. So let me just read the comment, guys, and I will put this on the link in the description, as always. So this is a post from X or Twitter. What do we call it now? Is it X? Is it Twitter? I don't know. So update. Serbia's president, I may be slaying this name, guys, President Vučić, I don't know, Alexander Vučić, predicts World War III in Europe. We are months away from a full-scale war between NATO versus Russia. All signs point to a major war in Europe. Guys, this is what we've been saying for the longest time, and I guess it's kind of why we started these channels when, Sarah was just putting the phone in my face, because I've been saying things and they happen in a couple of months' time. So what I'm going to do with today's video, we're going to talk about this, we're going to talk about some of the things I've said previously, and then later on, after I've been to the gym, I'm going to do another video and I'm going to say what I feel is going to come and how people are going to react. And the things that are going to be happening in the next couple of months. And it's up to you guys if you believe me or not. But if you look back through my videos on this platform and another, it's hard to deny what I've said is actually happening now. So you then cut. So we're paraphrasing here, guys. And I'll also put the full interview in the description as well. So he also goes on to say, we are heading for a major catastrophe, and it seems that the train has already left the station and can no longer be stopped. No one in the West is talking about peace anymore. And when he said this on the interview, I was like, wow, yeah, nobody is actually talking about peace anymore. Countries are talking about strengthening their militaries, how deficient their own militaries are, how the Russians are not going to stop, and nobody's talking about peace. There's no great peace plan. There's nobody, literally what he says. Nobody's talking about peace. Look on the look on the news. When's the next? When are people? When's two politicians? When are they talking about peace? They're not. Most embassies now in adversary countries have been closed down. The ambassadors have left, and that's a really bad sign. Because I think without question, when communication breaks down, that's when the war really ratchets up. Because there's no way to talk to each other. There's no way for these diplomatic back channels to be kept open. Yeah, no one is talking about peace anymore. Nobody is talking about peace anymore, only war, which is exactly what we just said. The West thinks it can win and take out Russia. I think the West is wrong. Both sides now believe this is existential for them. It is. So let's just unpack that a little bit, guys, okay? So, the West think they can win Russia, which is true, and it's not. So if the West has a quick war with Russia and they can have, use the West's technology, superior training, superior manpower, obviously superior air power, naval power, yes, they can win. If the Russians can slow them down and grind the West down and turn it into a war of manufacturing, a war of industry, a war of producing stuff, I really don't know the outcome of that, because we live in the Western world, and we live in this capitalist world now where we have so much red tape, so much self-imposed regulations on ourselves. Can you imagine if the UK has to start manufacturing munitions in a huge way? Imagine the red tape they're going to have to go through, because there's going to be some bureaucrat sat there going, oh, you can't do that. Section G19 of the Health and Safety Act clearly states, and you're going to be like, dude, tanks are coming. Yeah, I know the tanks are coming, but Section 7 actually states that. You're like, dude, seriously? Right, tanks are here, it's too late. You see where I'm going with that, guys, all right? So we have so much red tape on military production, arms manufacturing, and all that sort of stuff. We really have literally tied, we've tied our own hands together. So if this war does break out, which I think it will, with NATO and Russia, if it's a quick war, if the NATO can win quickly, it'll be a quick win. If it's dragged out over time, then the Russians will start to get the upper hand. The West thinks they can win and take over Russia. I think the West is wrong. Both sides now believe this is an existential war threat for them. So basically now you've got both sides. You've got the Russians with thinking that, with attacks on Russian mainland. You've also got NATO that has, committed so much to, when I say NATO, I'm, European nations and the United States. They've committed so much now in terms of money, military equipment, and credibility to making sure Ukraine win, whatever a win means. If this doesn't happen now, people will lose faith in the West. And then you've got, and we've spoke about Thucydides' trap quite a few times, but basically when there's a rising nation, so you've got the BRICS nations rising, so you've got Russia, you've got China, the BRICS nations who are rising, and then you've got NATO, who kind of don't want to relinquish what they've built for themselves in the last 300 years, you could argue. So that's the situation where we're at now, and that's why most times, if you talk about Thucydides' trap, most times when a rising nation is trying to overtake an existing nation, there's a catastrophic war. So I don't think they will find a solution other than war, and everything is at stake. In Europe, the leaders act like the big heroes, and they do, guys. I've said this so many times. You've got all these people blustering, saying we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I don't think the leaders quite understand what that word war means. It means people are going to be, less pleasant to each other, let's say the least. But they are not honest, and they do not tell their citizens that they will pay a big price if it comes to war. And I just want to leave it there and think about that thought, guys, okay? And we'll say it again. They do not tell their citizens that they will pay a big price if it comes to war. And the price they're talking about is the human cost, the phenomenal cost in human life. Look at the numbers that are being, claimed in Ukraine. Even if a quarter of those numbers are correct, this makes this like, the bloodiest war since the Second World War, maybe even worse. The human price is just going to be absolutely catastrophic. And each one of these lives, and I said this yesterday, and each one of these lives that we talk about, it's a person with hopes, dreams, with a family, with with ambitions. So who will, from the West, from the UK now I'm talking, who will go and fight these wars? Who will it be? Who will stay behind? Who's going to rebuild this country if we do go to this war, and all our good fighting men, because that's what they will be, the guys that put themselves forward to go and fight will be the ones that believe in this country. So who will be left? If all the ones who believe in the country and believe in Britain and believe in the idea and subscribe to the idea of British and Englishness, if they all go to fight because they believe in this country, who's going to be left behind? Who's going to be left behind to rebuild this country? And how are they going to rebuild this country? Are they going to rebuild this country with British values? Or are they going to rebuild it with their own values, whatever they may be? I don't know, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. And is this, and are we seeing this in other places around the world? We have been saying this for months on these channels, what's coming. But now you're seeing, if you've watched my video last night, if you watched that video last night, I go in and I talk about other mainstream media now are starting to say, hey guys, you know what, is World War III really happening? Is it happening? I don't know. People are starting to say, well, it could be happening. Now we've got, the Serbian president, coming out and saying we're only months away. So people are starting to realise, and remember guys, all right, remember what I say, all right, the Karen factor. Right, so check out, just remember the Karen factor when this happens, all right? When it starts to progress in mainstream media, when more people start talking about it, remember what it was like 4 years ago, all right? Just keep that in the back of your minds with the Karen factor, okay? So I'll put like I said, guys, I'll put the full interview on the, in the bio to this, that's the other platform. I'll put the link to the full interview in the description. What he also says is the president. He says he checks his stocks. In a country, obviously, you have a country's stocks or whatever. You have I think he says salt, sugar, and oil. I think it is, or something. So basically, right now, where you are, wherever you are in the world, just think. In fact, after this video, guys, go in your cupboard or wherever you keep your food. Go in your cupboard, your fridge, your freezer. Open it up and have a look and be realistic to yourself and think, right, if I had no more food, all the shops were shut, the water was turned off, how long would I be in here with my family? I mean, that's it's a subjective answer, it's a subjective question, I guess. So just think about that and put that in, contextualize that yourself. And when you're thinking about all these things that are coming and things that are happening, and as we're doing this tactical tiptoe where one country says this and then they go quiet for a little bit, and then once that red line's being pushed forwards, another country will come forwards and they'll say something else a little bit worse than that, but not that much. And then they'll go quiet for a little bit, and then this other country will push forwards and push a red line even further. When you're seeing all this on the TV and you're watching it in real time, and people are saying, oh, nothing will happen. Guys, we've got presidents now saying that, this is months away. I've been saying it for such a long time. So think how long, sorry guys, so going back, think how long you've got in your cupboards, in your pantry, wherever you keep your food, whatever, excuse me. I mean, it's not flex. We have 3+ months in our house. I'm ex-military. I've always worked in hostile environments, so I know when things go bad, they go bad quickly, and I know the chaos that ensues that, and I know all the things that are surrounding that with people. It's not the marauders you need to look out for. It's the people who religiously follow the rules. It's the people by religiously follow the rules. I mean, it's the Karens you need to look out for. The marauders, you can deal with marauders. It's the Karens, they're the ones, I always say, guys, it's the Karens, they're the worst ones to deal with. So, sorry, like I said, guys, I've worked all my working life anyway, in hostile environments, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, then Ukraine, all over the place. I've done this both as a military and as a civilian. So I know how these things work, and I know and I can see things, and when things go bad, it goes bad and it's chaos. So what I want to talk about now is something that happened to me in 2010. If you live in the UK and you can remember that far back, 2010, that we had a mass blanket of snow over Christmas time. It was huge. Well, I say huge. I mean, it was like 6 inches or something for the UK, and that's huge. That is like apocalyptic for the UK. And I'm pretty sure it was Tesco's that came out and they said, guys, the roads are too bad. We can't move on the roads. We're not doing any, we're not going to be doing any food deliveries. There'll be no more food deliveries. I lived in some flats in the town centre, and there was a Tesco's just across the road. So I could walk down there, it was fine. That night, the night that this announcement came out, I walked down to Tesco's. In fairness, there was a lot of snow. And I walked in, and guys, the inside of it was absolute carnage. You literally had little old ladies fighting, like real fighting, over loaves of bread. You had people stealing, is it stealing, is it looting? I don't know. They were certainly not paying for things. You had, just gangs going in, grabbing a load of stuff and running out. Those people that were in the checkout, they were arguing and they were fighting. And the shelves had just been ripped. I don't want to use ripped. They've been stripped dry, guys, okay? There was nothing on the shelves, And that was just because Tesco made it public, that they'll have no food deliveries over that period. So can you imagine if we have a real crisis where it's not just Tesco's not delivering, there's no more food coming into this country? Imagine how quickly people will be going out, they'll be bulk buying, they'll be looting, there'll be all sorts of wild stuff happening on, in the supermarkets. And then when that food's gone, it's not coming back, all right? I've been quite clear, guys, all right? I think we will have food shortages in the UK. I don't think we will have, I don't think anyone's going to starve in the UK. There will be shortages of certain items, but like I said, I don't think anyone's going to starve. So, going back to my point, guys, okay? Go into your basement, not your basement, go into your cupboards, your fridges, just go and have a look. Even if you do nothing with that information and just think, okay, I can only cook. I think there was a book, it was called 3 Meals from Anarchy or something, and it basically says that we only keep enough food in our homes for 3 meals because we're that reliant on shops and and the supply chain. Just go and have a look how much food and water you guys actually have, and just keep it in the back of your mind. I'm not saying do anything with it, but at least you will know, at least in your head, you will know that in your house you've got 3 meals, you've got 4 meals, whatever, and that can kind of give you a baseline for what you need. If you look at the news later on today or tomorrow or whatever, and you think, you know what, I think these food shortages, what Sean's talking about, are going to come. I think we're going to have rationing. I think, this war is going to happen, and once that happens, and once you start thinking like that, it's kind of an empowering thought, because you can control it. You can say, right, okay, I've got 3 months in my basement. I'm good for 3 months. I can subsidize that 3 months with whatever I can get from the supermarket. But guys, I don't want to turn this into a prepping channel. So what else has been happening in the world? Well, today we've got a Russian destroyer. Let me go and look at here. I want to talk about the Russian destroyer. I want to talk about the angle on it. I also want to talk about why it's not relevant. So, Russian anti-submarine vessel on fire in a struggle for survival after taking part in anti-NATO war games. So the article basically goes on and says there's, Russian submarines caught fire while it was doing some sort of anti-NATO war games. I'll put the link, obviously, in the description. But what I want to focus on here, guys, is 2 things. First of all, the parts and servicing of these large pieces of equipment, right? You can't just be given a piece of equipment and expect, it to work. Like, I can assume that this is from, these ships won't be serviced properly because of sanctions or because of other reasons. So when you don't service these ships and when you don't look after them, they don't work. Which brings me back to what I keep saying about the F-16s and where they're going to be flown from. It's okay training the F-16 pilots, but what about the support staff? What about the logistics to support that? What about the computer upgrades? What about the communications? All that sort of stuff, guys, all right? It's all part and part. That's why I'm convinced that the Ukrainian F-16s will never be flown from Ukraine. They'll always be flown from another country. And the video I talked about, the video I did yesterday, I spoke about that now, about actually, and again, it's just one of the things I've been saying. I think the Ukrainian guy, he's come out and he said that some of these F-16s will be kept in other countries to protect them. Well, if you're keeping them in other countries, why are you keeping them in other countries? You're going to fly them. You know what I mean, guys, okay? We're starting to murky the water. Now, historically, the Russians don't spend that much of their military budget on their navy. And it was kind of, it's kind of a mystery to some people why they don't spend that much money on their navy, when they've got some of their air defence systems are like their S-500 air defence. It's state of the art. There's nothing even close to it. Their nuclear capacity, they're the world's leading superpower in nuclear weapons, or so they claim. So why have they neglected their navy so much? Well, it's something that I don't know anyone else who's talking about this. Something called asymmetric naval warfare, what I feel we're going to see as we move into this new phase of conflict, as we move into this new phase of war. So we're going to have something called asymmetric warfare. And I found the company, and I'll put the link in the description as well, guys, okay? So I'll just read this, guys. You can search this up as well, but I'll put the link in the description. So Club K container missile system, which is basically you get a whole missile launch system that fits in the back of a shipping container. That shipping container can be transported by civilian trucks. It can be put on the back of a civilian shipping vessel. That civilian shipping vessel can then sail slow as you like into whatever port, whatever dock it wants. Yes, of course, there's checks and balances and all the rest of it, but the reality is you can put that on the back of a civilian vessel and then sail that really close to a dock. This is where I feel we're going to see the next phase in warfare, because those of you who served in Afghanistan, in Iraq, you'll know that fighting a military that is not dressed in uniform, that's not dressed in, that doesn't have military vehicles, that are using civilian vehicles, that are using civilian clothes, it's very hard to identify them. So in this instance, if Russia or China or whoever managed to get a load of these shipping containers right up to our shores, they literally have a launch pad there ready. So why would the Russians spend a load of money on their naval fleet when they know they're not going to use it? When they're like, right, well, what's the point in investing in this fleet when it's obsolete? Which I kind of think it is now. I think the naval fleets as they are pretty obsolete. So where the West, we're spending billions and billions on aircraft carriers and all this sort of stuff. The Russians, they're not spending any money. They're just going to commandeer, civilian shipping vessels and say, right, this is military now. Or they may not even tell them. They may not even tell the civilian shipping vessel that it has a missile system on the back. They'll just say, right, Yuri, you're taking that to Europe. And he won't ask because it's from the government. He's not, the captain's not going to go and look in these shipping containers. They're just gonna have them there. So I'll put the link to that in the description, guys. Okay. So how do we stop all this madness, guys? How do we stop it all? Nobody's even come up with this. I swear I think I'm the guys. If somebody has come up with this solution before me, please let me know in the comments. So how do we stop everything? We just stop paying our politicians for 4 years before they've done any work. In the UK, we have a system where our politicians get elected. They get elected, we have to pay them then for 4 years. They can do nothing. They can our politicians in the UK, they could get elected on, say, January the 1st. Say they got elected January the 1st, 2020. They wouldn't have to do anything till, they could literally go on holiday then and not do a thing. And there's nothing we could do about it. We would have to, I don't know, there'd have to be a by-election or something. But I'm sure there's something minimum requirement that they have to do. But basically, our politicians in the UK, they can stand up there, they can say, I'm going to stop these wars. I'm going to, instead of investing all this money in bombs and bullets that blow up, we're going to invest in infrastructure for your town and city. We're going to invest in infrastructure for jobs, for prosperity. Instead of doing, they can say all that, and then once they get elected, right then, where's the bombs? You see where I'm going with that, guys, all right? They get that for 4 years. So what we should do, we should reform the payment system. Rather than paying our politicians blindly, they should be paid, by their constituents. And I worked it out for where I live in the UK. It would cost everybody 50 pence. Now that 50 pence would come off your council tax or your state tax or however you work it, wherever you are in the world. So rather than paying, I don't know what, say you pay £100 a month for your council tax, you would pay £99.50, and then your final 50 pence, you get to choose whether that goes to your local politician, to your MP or not. If they're doing a great job, great, they get paid more. If they're doing a bad job, guess what? They don't get paid. So overnight you would have people and politicians who are actually wanting to do the job, who are working hard for us, the people who pay them. Guys, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to come back, and I'm going to tell you what's going to be happening next after all this. After these wars are declared, I'm going to tell you how politicians are going to react. I'm going to give a bit more deep dive of what's going to be happening in the next few months after this, after this conflict's declared. And that's it, guys. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. I'm going to Mag to Grid.